What two-game losing streak for the Philadelphia Eagles as they come out with a 28-22 victory over the Minnesota Vikings, and Jalen Hurts near perfect on the day, statistically perfect with a 158 passer rating as he airs out 3 touchdown passes, including a couple of bombs, one to Devontae Smith, and a picture-perfect day there for your quarterback, Jalen Hurts. Offensive line still shows some struggles. Run game difficult to get going in this one, but the Philadelphia Eagles, bottom line, Seth, walk away from Minnesota 5-2, and it also shows you what good a meeting is when it's not in a parking lot and it's actually in a film room, and the Eagles iron out some of the kinks in this offense with this victory today to, again, get their 5th win of the season. Welcome in. This is the Verizon Postgame Show. Mark Farzetta, Seth Joyner, and Derek Gunn. Make sure you guys like and subscribe on the Seth Joyner Show YouTube channel. Seth, what jumped out to you about this 28-22 victory for the Philadelphia Eagles?
Probably Jalen Hurts is poised today. He looked like he was just poised in the pocket. He scrambled to make plays with his eyes down the field. Everyone is clamoring and scampering to come up with, what this offense should look like and what their identity is. And I keep saying that there's a potential that their identity could change from week to week to week. It's looking like, in a lot of ways, that this offense is going to have to lean more on Jalen Hurts' arm than it is, Saquon Barkley's ability to run the football. Because this offensive line just cannot open holes. They cannot hold gaps whatsoever. Cam Jurgens goes down, and all of a sudden, we got Brett Toth at center. I just don't know. I know that Landon Dickerson's trying to do the best that he can to be there for his team and play, but it's clear to me that he cannot be 100% the way he's playing right now. And, even Tyler Steen, he's played okay, but, he's had some plays, too, where he hasn't been productive. I'm looking at Jordan Mailata sometimes, in his kick, in order to, get set, is slow. He looks laboring to get in his set, and speed rushers are just running by him like he's not there. And teams have figured out that, playing against a team like this, you got to give them movement. You got to give them motion. And what I mean by that is that I played on teams, where defensive linemen are smaller than the offensive linemen. And the worst thing that you can do when you play against a massive offensive line is just stay in one spot, because if you're right there where they expect for you to be, they can just maul you. But what teams are doing now, they're slanting, they're stunting, they're doing all kinds of things to give you a look like I'm in one place, but when you step to block me here, I'm jumping the gap, or we're running the game. I'm not going to be where you expect for me to be. And it seems to me that the Eagles' offensive line is not adjusting to that well. Minnesota came with some run blitzes. Obviously, they came with some pass blitzes, and this is what the Eagles are going to see. And until they can remedy by maybe zone blocking some situations, maybe even cut blocking. Like Brett Toth one time, the guy just ran right by him. I'm like, that the play is going to your left. You snap the ball, and you just did one of these Olay blocks. Worst case scenario, cut the guy so that he can't get in the backfield and hit Saquon by the time he gets the ball. And you've seen Saquon get banged up a little bit today. It's a result of him not having anywhere to run, teams jumping gaps, shooting gaps, stunting up front, and trying to figure out ways to get him slowed down before he even gets started. But as far as there being an identity, this football team's offensive identity may morph from week to week. There's going to be a game somewhere along the way where Saquon's going to bust loose and they're going to have 100 yards rushing. This is paltry today. 23 carries for 45 yards as a team, and Saquon Barkley only had, 18 runs for 41 of those yards. That's just unacceptable in today's National Football League, that you can play a whole game with 23 carries and only 44 yards by your all-star running back. They got away with one today. I don't know if that will be the case so much, down the road as this team goes forward. But, win is a win. You go in, you play one of the best defenses in the National Football League, The one thing that they're weak at, you can't do. The things that they're really good at, you absolutely destroyed it, with Jalen Hurts going, 19 for 23, 326 yards and three magnificent touchdowns. Still don't like the sacks. He took 3 sacks, but a 158.3 rating doesn't get much better than that.
Against the second best pass defense in the NFL. And Gunnar, before we get your take on it, let's just get right to it when it comes to our player of the game, because Jalen Hurts, I think, ran away with this one today. When you talk about the numbers that he was able to put up today, but also more so watching the game, the eye test, Seth, you talked about it, the poise he had when in the pocket and when he had to get out of the pocket. More importantly, take a look at these numbers from Jalen Hurts as to why he is our player to bank on today. Absolutely phenomenal when you talk about 19 of 23, 326 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 to A.J. Brown, 1 deep one to Devontae Smith. He did take the 3 sacks, but again, a 158.3 passer rating on today, Derek Gunn. This is a guy that is acting as that deodorant when other things around him may stink.
Are we talking about the same Jalen Hurts who supposedly can't throw the deep ball?
Oh, yeah, remember that?
Who the expert pundits have said time and time again, he just can't throw the deep ball. Looked pretty good throwing the deep ball for me today. Football is a funny game. We gave, and I'm sure many people did, gave the Vikings their prowess, being a stellar pass defensive team. They hadn't given up a 200-yard passer all season long. They were giving up like 159 yards passing. They were porous against the run, giving up 132 yards a game, 24th in the league. And Eagles flipped the script on them. And we kept saying, we want to see something different from this offense. And I didn't think they could beat them as many times on the deep ball as they did, which was a turning point in this game. And kudos to Jalen. Once again, They went into this game knowing the Vikings were coming out blitzing at him. Vikings blitz over 37% of the time. He stood tall in the pocket when he had to, and he beat the blitz. At one point, he was 5 for 5 against the blitz. He rolled out. I mean, the biggest play of the game to me was that rollout on the 3rd and 13 where he hits A.J. Brown on the sideline. That was the biggest play of the game, no question about it. He showed poise. He showed accuracy. I mean, he only missed him 4 passes out of 23. And a perfect QB rating, only the 3rd time in Eagles history a quarterback has had a perfect QB rating. I mean, what more can you ask from this guy? And still, whether people like him or hate him, it'll be a week-to-week venture. You look at other guys, the Patrick Mahomes, the Josh Allens, they can have bad games. People don't browbeat them like this guy in Philadelphia gets browbeat each and every week. And I understand why to a certain degree. I mean, but come on. He doesn't turn the ball over often. Didn't turn the ball over today. Made the necessary throws, made the necessary decisions. Primary reason why this team was able to score more than 17 points, which they hadn't done the last couple of ball games. We know he can do it. And I understand we want to see him do it more consistently. That's the problem. We haven't seen him consistently do it over a string of games. And that's even going back to last year. If he could do this consistently, even if they can't run the football the way they want to, this team will still have a great measure of success from this point on.
I think this is what the frustration is with the fans, the media, and everybody else, all the pundits. Every once in a while, he shows up like this, and I guess the question is, where is the consistency? Why can't you consistently do this? And listen, I get it. Those guys on the other side of the ball, they get paid to stop you. They get paid to play this game too. They're hungry for wins and they're hungry for validation as well. But I think the greatest consternation with how the fan base and how the media sees Jalen is his inconsistent inability, if you will, to put up performances like this on a regular basis when you have so many weapons. And I mean, as great as he played, like Dallas Goedert wasn't even a factor in this game today, and he probably could have been. But that's the frustration. If you show that you can do that today, twice in the Super Bowl, outplaying Patrick Mahomes, last year against Pittsburgh, is this what y'all wanted to see? Why can't you do it on a regular basis?
It's perplexing to me. I know the ability is there, and when he puts up numbers like this, it's like a teaser. he like teases the fan base. Okay, we know you're capable of doing it. And then all of a sudden, just when you jump on board and say, okay, we feel good about what we have, the next game is like, what in the world is going on here?
And I think we'd be okay with it if it was the other way around. Instead of him having bad games and a flash in the pan good game, if he had, could string together a couple of really good games and every once in a while he had a bad game, I think that, people could live with that. But it's like, we see the potential. Don't tell me he can't throw the ball across the middle, okay? For all those people say, oh, he's afraid to throw the ball over the middle. He can't throw the ball over the middle. Nonsense. Not only did he throw it over the middle, he threw it over the run. He threw it on the run, perfect deep ball, air moon ball against, that's what you're going to see against cover zero blitz. They're going to do it every single time. Like every throw that you could ask him to make, he made it today. And the question is, why is the offense struggling the way that it is? Because I believe if they come out and they throw the ball like this early in the game, then you would get people to back off, and now they'd have a much better opportunity to get Saquon working. Again, it's not that they have to be a run-first team or a pass-first team. I think that their identity they need to be a little more Jekyll and Hyde, if you will. They need to be whatever it is that they need to be on that day, be it, in order to win the game.
Yeah, you had mentioned the word they may be a different team week to week. I will say emphatically that this is what we're going to see week to week. I don't think there's going to be a definitive identity with this team like there was last year, like we know there are with so many teams across the National Football League, whether for good, bad, or indifferent. I think this is going to have to be a team that takes what the opposition gives them, and the defense. I mean, think about it. The defense doesn't score that touchdown today. Are we talking about a different outcome in this game? Because the offense scored, 21 points? And they scored 17 the last two and scored 21 today. This is not the explosive offense. It was today, but, it's not the explosive offense we were accustomed to seeing a year ago. We knew that coming in. Everybody's playing you like it's their championship Sunday. And they're going to give you their best shot. In like a good boxer, when somebody gets you on a rope, you're going to have to rope-a-dope your way off of that. Now they've been able to do it 5 times out of 7 so far this season.
The thing that really impressed me with Jalen today, though, is the communication. We talked about it a lot, not just about meetings and whether or not they're in parking lots or whether or not they're in film rooms, but like the one this week was obviously in the film room. But the communication on the field between Jalen Hurts and his receivers was the best we've seen all year. We're coming off the Broncos game, and we heard from Devontae Smith after the game about how if Jalen was signaling things, we didn't see it. We didn't see that communication. Today, on the first touchdown of the game that put the Eagles up 7-0, what did you see? You saw Jalen Hurts, again, make up for a bad offensive line, get out of the pocket, motion down the field to A.J. Brown. He takes off, bang, touchdown, just like that. Then the 26-yard reception by A.J. Brown, same type of thing. This time it was a pre-snap read from Jalen Hurts where, for the haters that say he can't read a defense, Jalen Hurts reads the defense, signals A.J. Brown out, they got the touchdown. Just a little, this is all it takes. Just a little that. That's all it takes. And he went out there and he scored the touchdown. That is the communication that this offense, unfortunately, has missed throughout this season. And when you ask the question about what would have happened if Jalen Carter doesn't body Carson Wentz and then the interception happens in the pick six with Jalix Hunt, well, this was the type of game that no matter what was going to happen in that fourth quarter, Jalen Hurts was going to have the answer. Now, on the other side of that, we look at the Giants game from 10 days ago. This is the curve. This is how we grade Jalen Hurts on his standard. We know he could play like this. For the people after the Rams game that want to say, oh, I told you he could throw the deep ball, did you miss the Super Bowl? Because he did it in the highest possible stage you could do it on. And then today, again, throughout this game, it sputtered in the first half a little bit. We saw a lot of the 3 and outs. It wasn't all gravy. But when push came to shove, Jalen Hurts was there with answers, communicating with his wide receivers to make big plays.
You know what the question is going to be moving forward? If you look at what Jalen's done, I think he's had more success against teams or success against teams when teams have decided to come after him and teams that play a lot of man coverage. The areas where I think that Jalen struggles, because I don't believe that the Eagles offense is set up where they have coverage beaters. Now, a lot of times, you'll have routes that are set up to beat specific coverages. Like if you've got cover 2 and you send a tight end screaming up the middle, those safeties, those half safeties have to honor that. Now, if you run a deep dig and they're not in 2 Tampa, well, guess what? You set that route up to beat the coverage. So there's a route to beat every single coverage. You can design it that way. I don't know that this offensive staff or this offensive coordinator with this offense is really built that way. You know, when you see a lot of times, you know, you see the all hooks, and all of a sudden, you know, a team is in, they drop into zone, and they're actually running their routes to the drops. I'm like, to me, that makes no sense. That makes it really hard for Jalen. And I saw it a couple of times in the game today, you know, where Minnesota dropped in a zone. They had, you know, these short routes by everybody across the board. And when you got the end zone view of the broadcast, you could see everybody down the field was covered, you know. So to the naked eye, to somebody who's not trained to look for that, they'll look at it and say, well, why didn't Jalen throw the ball? There was nobody open, you know. So, but in man-to-man coverage, he's looking at it like, okay, where's my best matchup, okay? I've seen Devontae Smith roast Isaiah Rodgers' ass multiple times in practice last year. So we know what route he's susceptible to, okay? So now you know you got the matchup, you take advantage of it. Same thing with AJ. You got an all-out blitz. AJ runs a stop and go. The receiver, the DB stops for a second thinking that he's going to throw the ball to the sticks, and AJ takes off. You got a little breadbasket throw. But the real test is going to come when the game is even and teams don't have to come after Jalen. And when they get into their zone coverage, can Kevin Petullo devise some routes to beat coverages? You know what coverages these teams are going to play. If they're a cover 2 team, you better have a cover 2 beater. You better have a cover 3 beater. Just like today, we played a lot of cover 3. The outside flat droppers weren't getting out there. Carson Wentz wore our defense's ass out with the out route. Won again and again. Anytime he wanted it, he could have had it. I don't understand why he threw it anywhere else but to the out route, to Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson. But our offense has to have that component, D-Gun, built into it, where we are beating coverages with routes before the ball's even snapped, because we're not good enough. No offense is good enough to just say we're just going to run our routes and, you know, we're so talented, we're just going to beat everybody. It doesn't work that way.
I wish I was behind closed doors and had a chance to just listen to some of the conversations this week leading up to this game between, you know, Nick Sirianni, Kevin Petullo, Jalen Hurts, about redefining what we want to accomplish, especially against this particular Minnesota team, and just see where the mindset is. I would like to see, are they all three in sync? Do they have 3 different ideologies in terms of how they want to see this offense run? And maybe that's been some of the problems, you know, in the past. But I'm looking at Jalen's numbers this season alone, and you know, 4 out of the 7 games, he's completed 68% of his passes. Any quarterback would take that.
Absolutely.
2 of the games, the first game of the season and today's game, he completed both identical 82.6% of his passes. What else do you want from a quarterback? And both games did not turn over the football. You know, can Jalen be criticized in some arenas for things he does or does not do? Yes. But when a man performs the way he performed today and in other times, get a man his due. You know, let's give him his due. I mean, that's what we're doing now, but let's give him his due. And when he doesn't, when he's not perfect, living up to certain people's expectations, but if he's still good enough to get the job done and doesn't turn the football over, give him his due. I mean, he's one man. You're not playing 1 on 11. It takes 11 guys to function, man. You know, and I'm not saying us. I'm just saying in general. And when I listen to sports talk radio and I watch other shows, especially national shows, for the life of me, I don't understand why they're more critical of him more so than other quarterbacks who've been in the league longer, but yet have not achieved what he has achieved in a lot of ways. You know, how many times has Lamar Jackson been to a Super Bowl?
0.
How many times has Josh Allen been to a Super Bowl?
That'd also be 0.
But they put these guys up on these pedestals and they can do no wrong. I mean, even when they do wrong, they can do no wrong. Oh, it's just a bad night at the office. You know, but this guy here, he has a bad night at the office, man, the world comes crashing down on him. I give him a lot of props. I mean, we critique him negatively, but we're honest about it. I think it's fair as anybody.
Let me jump in real quick.
Yeah.
Not negatively. we critique him.
Yeah.
But sometimes he's not perfect.
No, he's not. No, he's not.
And that's what's called for.
But what quarterback is.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I just, for the life of me, I don't understand why he's critiqued harder than quarterbacks who haven't achieved. I mean, in 6 seasons, look what he's achieved.
Exactly.
2 Super Bowls and an MVP Super Bowl. He's given his city something that they clamor for. Football is king in Philadelphia, and he's giving them that Lombardi Trophy. You know, that's all they want each and every year is a chance to compete from that Lombardi Trophy. He's done that for them the last few years.
I look at Jalen Hurts and I see an elite quarterback. If you've been to the Super Bowl twice and you've won a Super Bowl, and in those Super Bowls, as you pointed out earlier, Seth, you've outperformed Patrick Mahomes, then you hold him to that standard. You could call it being a victim of your own success if you want to. I just think it's being an elite quarterback, which Jalen Hurts is. So when I see him not play to that standard, well, then you critique him against that standard, because you know who else is critiquing Jalen Hurts to that standard? Jalen Hurts is critiquing Jalen Hurts to that standard. So you see him go out there today, and we'll talk about the offensive line more, but Seth, watching this game, Swiss cheese comes to mind. And it's also interesting, I can't remember too many times where I've seen an offensive line so much better at pass blocking than they are at run blocking, for instance. Now, I know they're banged up, but no excuses. This is something we're seeing continuously from this offensive line. If you want to talk about something consistent, it's the poor play from the Eagles' offensive line. Jalen Hurts, I thought, overcame that today to buy time behind the line of scrimmage and find his guys downfield, whether that was pre-snap recommunication or that was just him making plays with his legs.
You know, it's funny that you say that, because I didn't really look at it from that standpoint until you just said it. Jalen Hurts overcame the lackluster play of his offensive line today. You know, in a lot of regards, you know, you can look back at the games where, you know, we have deemed that he hasn't played well, and we could make the assertion, Mark, that, you know, he hasn't been able to overcome lackluster play. But when you look at some of these better quarterbacks in the National Football League, they get good offensive line play. You know what I'm saying? So it's not something that they have to overcome, because think about what he has to overcome. He has to overcome negative offensive line play from time to time. He has to overcome, in my opinion, you know, very predictable and rudimentary play calling, okay? And he has to do it all. The focus is always on the quarterback. It's always the quarterback's fault when you win and when you lose. The quarterback always takes more of the blame when you lose, and they get too much of the credit when you win. But at the end of the day, you make a very good point. He overcame a lot today for this victory. Now, listen, a win is a win. We're not trying to negate that. The defense played outstanding football in specific areas. You know, the pick 6 by Jalen Hurts was huge. You know, the other interception by – who had the other interception?
Makuba. On that floater from Wentz.
Was huge. It was a total team effort, but when you're talking about the offense, it just feels like everything is hard. Like nothing can be easy. Like we can't out-scheme, we can't out-think, we can't out-strategize, you know, another team in such a way that it's a big deal. With the exception of, you know, the Smitty touchdown, you know, it seems like everything is broken. You know, everything is you know, what's the word I'm looking for? It's ad-libbed, you know, instead of it being defined by play calling. Like we got the right play call. Jalen got to the line of scrimmage and he checked out of it because he saw what coverage they were in and decided, you know, that this was a better play or this run play was a better play. It just, everything's a struggle. You know, he's got to scramble for his life and hit A.J. Brown on 3rd and 13, you know, on the sideline in order to convert the first down. He's got to, you know, throw a deep ball on 4th down, you know, to convert. It's just nothing's easy. And not that it should be, but it seemed when you compare it to what we did last year, what this offense produced last year, it just seems like last year was a walk in the park. We knew Saquon was going to blow it up and tear it up, and, you know, it just seemed like easy. And it just seemed like they're struggling through everything. And I think that, you know, I believe Saquon is getting very, very frustrated now with not only the play call, but how the offensive line is blocking up front. Like you could see even when the game was won, in one of those runs that he ran, I mean, he just like you could see the frustration. Him, hitting his thigh pads and popping himself, in the head. He's just tired of getting beat up because this is starting to look like New York for him all over again.
Over 30% of his rushing attempts, he's hit behind the line of scrimmage. I mean, think about that. In 7 games, he's taking more punishment now than he took a season ago. I mean, think about that. Mm-hmm. So it's taking its toll. He was evaluated for concussion today, came back in the game. These little nicks are going to start adding up with him, if this offensive line doesn't get better. The Eagles only ran 49 plays today. Think about that. 49 plays, wow. 23 were rushing attempts. Let me ask you guys something. Jalen was incredible, immaculate on 23 passing attempts today. As we talk about this offense continuing to have to morph each and every week and be something different each and every week, would you be comfortable with Jalen throwing the ball, if he has to, 35, 38 times a game? I ask you both this and sit back and hear what you have to say.
I'm comfortable. I'm fine with that. It's not the goal.
Okay.
It's to not have to do that.
Right.
For me, I was, again, I'll go back to the Rams game. To hear so many people like spike a proverbial football that, I told you Jalen could throw. Like, he literally answered the biggest possible question he could have answered last year during the Super Bowl. Saquon was taken away.
Yeah.
There was a big concern with people saying, I'm just terrified that Jalen's going to have to make throws for this team to win. He did that on the biggest stage possible. And then he has one great half against the Rams, and people are then spiking the football again. Like, I know, and I think most people should know, he's very capable of doing this. He could throw the deep ball very well. He could throw that slant route more and more. I'd love to see it more. We've talked about that a lot throughout this season. This shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. This is the standard in which he could play. That's how good a quarterback he is. That's why people should hold him to that standard.
Listen, I don't have a problem at all. I mean, you guys heard me talk about it at the beginning of the year. I said this may be a year where Jalen needs to throw the ball 30-plus times a game in order for this team to be successful. So I don't have a problem whatsoever. The issue is the protection needs to be there. The play calling needs to be there. And I think that Jalen needs more autonomy at the line of scrimmage. Like, we've seen some hand signals today where Jalen is telling his wide receivers what route to run because he understands what the coverage is. I would also love to see, Jalen get up to the line of scrimmage and look outside and see A.J. Brown lined up, see the corner rather lined up 8 to 10 yards off of A.J. And instead of running the slant and having the cornerback coming down, just throw it out there to him. Like, I don't care if there's a running play call. Like, give him the freedom to look out there and say, okay, I got A.J. Brown one-on-one at 220-something pounds against a DB that's 190, okay? And if I throw him the ball, that DB's got to come up and tackle him in the open field, okay? So now, every other quarterback does it. Every other, like if CeeDee Lamb is lined up outside, at X all by himself, and that cornerback is 8 to 10 yards off the ball, I can promise you Dak Prescott don't give a damn what the play call is. He's just going to raise up and throw that ball to CeeDee Lamb and let CeeDee Lamb do what he does best, okay? So the autonomy at the line of scrimmage is the thing, and they need to build that into the offense. And if you build that into the offense, now you can begin to dictate coverages, technique, leverage. You can dictate all of that stuff because if I throw it out there enough and that cornerback starts to get beat up a little bit, guess what he's going to do? He's going to start coming up because he don't want it. Now you can run the slant and go. So you can get what you want. You just have to, the Eagles offense just has to operate this way. Everybody else, Patrick Mahomes, the same exact way. If Travis Kelce's lined up out there, he don't care who's lined up on Travis Kelce. If that guy's 8 yards off the ball, he's just going to raise up and throw on the ball.
I believe Nick Sirianni or Jalen Hurts is taking to the podium right now. We're going to go to them live.
What did our guys do? Well, the communication on that is, a scramble drill that we do every day, right? That they do every day. We had a couple big plays on broken plays. That's where Jalen Hurts is so dangerous. He's able to run on a scramble play. He's able to throw on scramble plays. So made a lot of good plays like that. Obviously, that one was one of them. Had multiple. I think we had one to Dallas, one to Devontae for a big gain, one to AJ on another third down. So there was a bunch of those. And scramble plays, John, don't always look the same, right? Sometimes, if there's a void in the deep zone, you can take it high. Sometimes if there's not, you take it back. Sometimes you just flash with the quarterback. But those are things that we work tirelessly on as a unit, as a team, as a coaching staff. And because we know we have the abilities to make plays and big plays off of that. Well, I mean, our philosophy is always going to be do whatever we got to do to win games every single time, and then we do what we got to do to identify problems. We're going to be so excited anytime we win a game, and we really don't care how it looks. But then it's getting back, and we had a little bit of a mini bye to be able to look at some things, and those are some of the things that we came up with. Does that mean it's going to look like that every week? No. Different weeks call for different things, but that was a direction we wanted to go, and we'll continue to look at some things. Yeah, I think we've obviously been in the gun for a long time in our offense. It's just a change of some of the things that we've done. We've been very successful in the gun, and we're just trying to find ways to get things going. Different ways. Today it was, hey, try to get under center some. Still want to be able to, run the ball more effectively and more efficiently than we did today. But that's on all of us as coaches, as players. But it gives you obviously something a little different. I won't get into all the things that we know that it gives us. But there's a time for it. There's also time to be back in the gun and running from there because, we've made a lot of plays that way as well. Yeah, I think that's a stat that's never. I don't know. We always look at just passing yards, and we look at touchdowns. Today, obviously, we had a lot of passing yards, but he's always clutch in those moments. It's why I have the confidence to go for it on the first drive on a 4th and 4, because the guys will make plays. I know a lot of things. I think there's sometimes you watch a game, it's analytics say you should go for it here. Do you trust your players in those moments? That's what you lean on. You listen. It's a piece of the puzzle. You listen to the analytics, a piece of the puzzle. You have trust in your players. You have trust in the play call. You have trust in the offensive line. That's what gives you confidence to do that. And Jalen obviously gives you a lot of confidence to be able to do that. And every time we get a 4th down conversion, I look at him and I say, hey. I trust you in these scenarios. Thanks for making me right, because he makes you right in those. That's good coaching is your players going out and making plays, and them making plays makes you look like a good coach. That's for sure. We're just pumped to get out of a really hostile place. A lot of credit to this stadium, this team, those fans. Coming out of a hostile place with a win. We're always looking, do whatever we got to do to win, and then find ways to get better. And that's the players through practice, through their preparation. That's the coaches through our self scouts and our, and also our preparation and game planning. You came out running and then shifted. Was that the plan or was that an adjustment? Yeah, obviously it adjusted as the game went. I think the offensive coaches did a phenomenal job of making adjustments at halftime, and throughout the game. They saw something on the big post to Smitty, and Smitty went out and Jalen went out, made a big time throw, big time catch. And so, again, Jalen has a knack for throwing those deep balls, and our guys can run and get under them. So they saw something where the middle of the field was open. A lot of respect for that coordinator. Coach Flores is a phenomenal coordinator. He had us up all night. Those offensive coaches were sleeping in the building. They're late all night because of the problems and the issues that they create. So a lot of respect to them. They made us work really, obviously, made us get our money's worth this week.
I know, obviously, you're not going to reveal all the injuries of it, but you did have your best passing game after the 10-day mini bye. Do you feel like the things you worked on, things you discovered, were the weak injury, were the confidence that passing the ball
It's always it's never just one thing in this game, right? It's a combination of, you know, coaches putting guys in positions to make plays and players making plays. That's always what this game's is about. I love our process coming off of a bye week. We're off of a Thursday game. You know, we'll continue to try to improve that process. We got another one coming up after this game against a division opponent coming up this week. We'll work our butts off and see what we can do going forward.
What defense you kept on the field goals on 5 and 6? What was the difference there?
That was huge. That was huge. You know, that's why it's so important, right? I know we missed a couple tackles. I know Andrew missed the tackle on Jefferson. Jefferson, man, that guy is a phenomenal football player. You watch it all week. You know, besides our guys, I'm not sure there's anyone else in the league other than him. You know, I got a lot of respect for a lot of guys in the league. Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. I want our guys at all times. I love our guys. But, man, he's a good football player. But the hustle on that play to get him down was big. And that's why, you know, you have to play with relentless effort. We know, you know, you always have a chance to stop him. Because of some of the issues that we create on defense and the way the guys are playing down there. You know, I thought that our run defense, you know, did a lot of good things. You know, they obviously thought so too, because they think they were 2nd and 1, 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. They passed it every time, so they saw something in that as well. So when you get in those scenarios and you're able to get stops, those are huge. Like we work at those a lot, right? Those 4-point plays that we kind of call it down there. Because that can, you know, just like a turnover, those 4-point plays in a red zone can make swings as well. So great job, Vic, with Vic, you know, putting the guys in positions to succeed, and then our guys going out in there and making plays. You know, they made a really good throw and catch that just was off, and it really helped us, right? On the one to Hawkinson, he's a really good player. This team's got a lot of good players. I think the world of Kevin O'Connell and the coaching job that he does. But huge to be able to get those stops in the red zone.
Nick Sirianni addressing the media in Minnesota. We'll get more from Jalen Hurts in his press conference coming up a little bit later. This is the Verizon postgame show.
Hi, I got some work done with another surgeon. If I give you the bill, can you give me a better deal on a better face? Like this?
We're not doing that.
Well, at Verizon, anyone can bring in their AT&T or T-Mobile bill, and they'll give you a better deal on the best 5G network. Read my lips. You're not as cool as Verizon.
Guess not.
Hey, my eyes are up here.
Bring your AT&T or T-Mobile bill to Verizon for a better deal.
I miss turtlenecks.
There's a number on the screen.
There's a number on the screen. There's a number on the screen.
There's a number on the screen.
There's a number on the screen.
There's a number on the screen.
There is a number on the screen.
There's a number on the screen.
There's a number on the screen. There's a number on the screen.
Since 1893, Weber Display and Packaging has been Pennsylvania's leading manufacturer of corrugated packaging and displays. We're family owned with 4 Philadelphia locations, 2 converting facilities, a warehouse, and a fulfillment center. Designed through delivery, we exceed customer needs. Weber Display and Packaging. Our core values drive everything we do. Come join our team.
This upcoming segment is brought to you by Verizon. We hope to hear from Jalen Hurts coming up in just a little bit, but in the meantime, we want to hear from you, the fans, people in the chat, and for that, we'll go to our social media correspondent, Bailey Livesey, standing by. Bailey, we missed you last week. What are the good people talking about?
I missed you guys too. It is so great to be back, and you think fans would be able to say the same thing after today's win, but they're not impressed with today's performance. Even in a win, the offense remains the talking point. One person went as far to say that they are one of the worst in the league, but the comments under this post say that it's not the players that are struggling, it is the play calling. Do you agree?
I think that is a very fair point. Again, when you get down to the improvisation, to call it that, even what Nick Sirianni talked about, hey, even scramble plays are good plays and all that, or trusting his quarterback to make a play, thanks for making me look good. Okay, that's one way to put it, I guess. But yeah, play calling has definitely left a lot to be desired this year.
You could be covering Baltimore.
You could be worse.
You could be covering the Jets.
Okay.
You could be covering the Titans.
All right, that's the first time it's ever been a brag that we're not the Jets.
Okay. Or the Titans.
Okay.
Or the Ravens. Yeah, and I said it before we went on air. You know, they won the game today. They accumulated 28 points. But there's still something just not right with this offense. You know, we understand the running game's having issues, but even with the passing game and the play calling, it's like you still sit there sometimes going, why? You know, but there's so much talent on this team, and they can overcome their flaws. And if you look at their 5 wins, their 5 wins have had a lot of flaws in them. There were games that could have gone either way. One play here, one play there could have been gone either way. But they found a way to overcome those issues, and they've won 5 out of 7 games. I don't want to sit here and just negatively critique what we saw today because they got a win. They broke a 2-game losing streak. They went into a very hostile environment and took it to and put up over 300 yards of offense against a very good Minnesota defense. And who knows what we're going to talk about next week when they get the rematch against the Giants. But I mean, for today, they did enough of what they had to do. I didn't think they would throw the deep ball as much as they did. But man, Jalen was on point, man. He only missed 4 passes. Perfect QB rating. I don't know what else you can ask for today. I'd rather be imperfect and win than to be imperfect and be over the season like the Jets.
Bailey, it's a fact that the fans of Philadelphia, they can be a little ungrateful sometimes. Listen, I agree 100%. Something's off, something's amiss. Not only with the offense, but at times with the defense. I mean, you look at what Vic Fangio had to do today. He was nothing short of spectacular with, 7-man fronts, 8-man fronts, 6 men down at times. You do what you have to do to win. I mean, the NFL is not like, Major League Baseball, NBA or hockey. You don't get 162, 82, and 82 to get it done. You get 17, and that's a wrap. And then we got 35, 35 weeks, to contemplate and get back to this all over again. So you got to understand how hard the game is and how hard it is to actually win games. So when you get a victory and you're 5-2, that means that you've got a 2-game lead in your division alone. You got 2 teams in your division fighting against each other today. So one of them is going to be even one more game back. At the end of the day, it's all about winning as many games as you can so that when you get to the tournament, you can get the best position in the tournament to run the table and get to the championship. That's what it's really all about. Now it's our job. We're in the business of analyzing and critiquing what's going on with the team. And of course the fans are going to be the same way because they've got that kind of adoration and love for the team and that kind of, fanaticism for the team. But it's hard to win games, in this league. The NFL has done a fantastic job of trying to create parity across the board. They have done so in a lot of ways. And, as an Eagles fan, sometimes you just got to enjoy the wins and hope that somewhere along the way, by the time they get to, the end of the season where it really matters, that everything that's not going right now finds a way of getting right by the time you get there.
Absolutely. Bailey, what else do you have for us?
Well, the word that kept popping up today on social media was urgency, or lack of it. Even when they're up, fans say that it feels like this team is never in control. What do you believe is causing that?
I just think that when you cannot dominate the line of scrimmage on both sides, it's hard to dominate a game. Because when the Eagles had, a pretty sizable lead, when they went up, was it 21-6, I think it is, that's the time where we normally get into our run sets and we just smash teams, into submission and we burn the clock. Well, you saw today we couldn't get that done. So they had to keep scoring points and keep scoring points. Every single time that Minnesota found a way to come back and pull within a score or two, the offense had to answer. And they did it today. Sometimes that's just not the case. But the offense isn't operating at the level it needs to, which contributes to everything seeming extremely hard, D-Gun.
You talk about dominating the trenches. I'm looking up and down their schedule. I don't know if there's a game on their schedule other than maybe the Raiders where they might dominate the trenches. I think it's going to be either or. I mean, they've got Washington twice, Buffalo. You still have the Chargers. The Bears are playing good football right now. Bears are not going to be pushed over. You got the rematch down in Dallas, and Dallas statistically is the worst defense in the National Football League, but they play differently at home compared to how they play on the road. So I don't know if there's going to be trench warfare that the Eagles are going to dominate. I think it's going to continuously be what we're watching now. Hit your moments. It doesn't have to be perfect. Make the big plays when you had to. Jalen made the big plays when he had to. He took some unnecessary sacks, but I tell you what, he escaped some sacks, made some big throws down the sideline, made some big throws down the middle of the field, and that's what you're going to have to do. And to get to where you want to go, that's what you're going to have to do. People need to come out of this mindset. They're going to come close to being the team they were in 2024. That's not going to happen with this team. We've seen that.
I'll give you something. I'll give you a little something to chew on. Okay. The Kansas City Chiefs, after they won the Super Bowl last season, the season before last, I should say. Where did they go? I think they went 16-1 or
15-2.
15-2.
Yeah.
Okay. They had 15 games that they won by one possession. And everybody talks about, the Eagles could have been 1-4, over the first. Well, it could have been the same way with the Kansas City Chiefs, but they just kept finding ways to win, got themselves back to the Super Bowl. Now, they got steamrolled in the Super Bowl by the Eagles, but the truth of the matter is, okay, it is hard to repeat.
Sure.
Because everybody is gunning and shooting for you and planning and scheming and strategizing, against what you do best. But if this team just keeps just grinding it out, figuring out ways to win, the quarterback keeps, progressing and getting better. If everybody could just stay together as a team, I think that by the time you get to the end of the year, they will have been through so much adversity, they're either going to rise to the top, and overcome it, or, the injuries and the inconsistencies will consume them. But it kind of will be what it'll be, This team is not going to be one of those teams that just, puts up 40 points and just runs away with games. It's just not going to be that way because their 4-minute offense, which would normally be, Mark, their running offense, their clock killer, it's just not there because they're not dominant, as an offensive front anymore, and defensively, on the line, they don't have enough depth, I don't think, at tackle to really be dominant.
As inconsistent as this team is, look up and down the NFC. Do you think there's a team better than the Eagles in the NFC? Think about it. No.
I don't think. I think if you think about the consistencies and inconsistencies of teams, I still think, as the defending Super Bowl champion, as the defending NFC champion, you have to give the Eagles the nod. What other team is out there? Maybe the Detroit Lions, when they're hitting on all cylinders, they're a team. If they're running the ball, and that would be if you get the Eagles-Lions matchup in the NFC Championship. That's going to be Vic Fangio's greatest challenge because that offense is purely predicated off of their ability to run the ball. If they can run the ball, then they get bootleg and everything, and Jared Goff's throwing it all over the place. But the few times where they've lost, they have 2 losses this year, right?
Yeah, Kansas City held them to 17 points. When they lost their season opener to Green Bay after that game, they averaged over 30 points a game for the next 4 games.
Right.
Kansas City held them to 17.
But I promise you, without seeing the statistics, if you go and you look at the Packers game and then you go look at the Kansas City game, the similarities that you will see is that, the 2 running backs, Knuckles and whoever they call themselves, that those 2 guys were held in check. When you hold those 2 guys in check, now you force Jared Goff to be a pure drop-back passer. And there's a reason why Sean McVay jettisoned him and got Matthew Stafford. And that's the reason why, because they have to have a running game in order for Jared Goff to be effective. Without the running game, he's just an average quarterback. And that's going to be the biggest question mark if that winds up being. I say, you asked the question, are they the best NFC team? I would say Probably. They're right there between them and the Detroit Lions. But if you look at those two teams and you say that those two teams are probably going to wind up in the NFC Championship, that's going to be the biggest challenge in the game, is how you get their running game under control, because they got two guys that can flat out get it.
No question. And on top of that, when you look at an offense like the Detroit Lions, you want to talk about creative ways of getting the ball down the field. I think, other than Kansas City, I think Detroit is the most creative offense in the National Football League. You got halfbacks throwing the ball, tight ends throwing the ball. You got offensive linemen catching touchdown passes. They do any and everything they can to keep a defense second guessing. It is so hard in the National Football League to throw teams off of tendencies once they start studying film of you. And I think when it comes to Kansas City and Detroit, they're the two best teams in terms of flipping the script on you and giving you a look that you haven't seen before, and that's hard to do over a course of 17 games.
Yeah, meanwhile, we're getting excited about shovel passes and standard play action passes, which was the shot to Devontae Smith, by the way.
So I'll say this. You know, we always believed that, you know, trick plays and creativity is because they know that physically they can't dominate you up front, and they're trying to keep you off balance. I think that technically and fundamentally, the players in the National Football League are 10 steps behind where players were when I played. Now, bigger, stronger, faster, they have the advantage. But intellectually and technically and fundamentally, they're flawed. And I think the smart offensive coordinators, I should say, they use that against teams. Like, if I get a defensive end that consistently crashes on runaway, I know that I can game plan that. So I'm going to go bootleg because I'm going to catch him down inside, and I get my running quarterback on the edge where he either can make a throw or he can take off and run for a first down, okay? So they're game planning defensive inefficiency.
Right.
So when you play against a team like the Detroit Lions, you have to be buttoned up technically and fundamentally at all times. If my key is that tight end blocks down, then my first vision goes to what's coming down the railroad track, okay? And I'm not going anywhere until I identify what's going on. Is somebody coming back? Is a guard or a tackle pulling? Are they running the reverse? Is the quarterback bootlegging? I'm not going anywhere. I'm technically fundamentally sound in how I'm looking at things. As a linebacker, I'm reading off the uncovered lineman. That off-covered lineman is going to tell me, okay, whether it's run or pass. If they're running bootleg, my eyes go back, you know, to that crossing tight end right now. You have to be so fundamentally sound when you're playing against them. If you're a deep safety and they run the ball, I'm looking at that offensive lineman. I'm looking at the center if I'm a single high safety, okay? What is that center telling me? That center is not only telling me whether it's run or pass, but while they're doing all that razzle-dazzle jump behind me, that center cannot cross the line of scrimmage if they're running any kind of flea flicker or stuff like. So I'm getting depth right now when I know that I'm the last line of defense. I'm not being fooled by anything. But these coordinators are so smart and they're so tricky that they use, you know, those fundamental and those technical deficiencies, and they game plan for them. Okay, so that's going to be the key. That the Eagles, you know, they got to continue to be buttoned up, and it's hard to do sometimes when you got highly and overly aggressive, you know, young players on your team.
Fair enough. Bailey, you have one more for us.
Yes, well, social media is already looking ahead to next week. Besides leaving Kevin Patullo in Minnesota, as all fans are saying so,
oh my goodness,
what do you think needs to be done before they go up against the Giants once again next week?
Oh my goodness.
Well, I don't think Kevin Patullo did himself any favors today, despite the fact that this is the first time all year that the Eagles have scored touchdowns in each and every quarter. Now, offensively, they didn't do that. They did it in 3 of the 4 because one of the touchdowns was the pick 6. But today was the Jalen Hurts show, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, as far as play calling goes, still leaves a lot to be desired because a lot of these plays, a lot of the successful plays, the big shots downfield, a lot of them were Jalen Hurts buying time behind the line of scrimmage. And again, to go back to this, communicating with his wide receivers. Do you think Kevin Patullo, gentlemen, today, Nick Sirianni, who talked about calling plays in his post-game press conference, not all of them, but some of them, do you think that the play calling has gotten any better based on today's performance?
I do, in terms of taking more deep shots than I thought they would in this game today. But overall, it still, to me, in a lot of ways, looked like the same offense. They can't get the ground game going. They still make too many penalties, too many mistakes. And as Jordan Mailata said, mental mistakes, lack of focus mistakes. But they hit Minnesota with the big shots. And again, they hit the big shots. The offense scored 21 points. So the last 3 games, they've scored 17, 17, and 21 points. In a lot of games against equal competition, that may not be good enough for you to win a football game. You know, thank goodness the defense chipped in on the scoring today. I think he called a better game in terms of the passing game, but in terms of just overall play calling, no.
Yeah, I think we're all there.
Listen, I would say no, because I'm looking at the possessions here, and I track, each and every possession. They went 12 plays, 75 yards, 37-yard touchdown to A.J. Brown, the first series of the game. Then they went 3 plays, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. 4 plays in the half, okay? So they had a grand total of 27 yards after the first possession on the subsequent 4 possessions, D-Gun, okay? They had 27 total yards, 3 and out, and they were 0 for 5 on third down conversions in the first half alone. You can't live like that, okay? And then they come out in the second half. They get the 2-play, 84-yard, 79-yard touchdown to Smitty. Okay, this was the one I put 2 asterisks next to. Okay, the next possession they went 9 plays, 47 yards, and Jake Elliott missed,
42 yards.
The 42-yard field goal. But on 3rd and 5, okay, on 3rd and 5, instead of allowing Jalen to throw the ball, they ran the ball after not being able to get anything, because I believe that they played too conservative in that situation. They were like, we're going to run the ball here. We'll maybe get 3 or 4 yards, and then we'll tush push for the first down on 4th down and keep the drive alive. But Saquon carries, he gets no yards. Now it's 4th and 5, and you're forced to kick a field goal. Where's that aggression? Where's that ability to be aggressive in that situation to put the nail in the coffin? Because 7 in that situation certainly would have did it, rather than the missed 3. Because Minnesota turns around the next possession, comes back and goes down and scores a touchdown. And then the next series they go 7 plays, 70 yards with a 26-yard touchdown to A.J. Brown, the little hand check on the side by Jalen Hurts, so, and then you got end of the game. So you in the second half, you only had 4 possessions. You scored 2, you missed a field goal, and then you had the end of the game after the game was wrapped. So when you talk about the efficiency and the proficiency of the offense, no, it ain't there. It ain't close to being there. Because you can't go, 9 possessions, and you got a punt, the end of the half, a missed field goal, and the end of the game. 1, 2, 3 touchdowns. Come on, man.
After all that conversation, Bailey, I'm seeing one of the last comments there is still they want Kevin Patullo fired. So there we go. We're still there. Bailey Livesey, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Of course, thank you.
Absolutely. When we come back, we're going to talk about the drive of the game. That's when we return on the Verizon postgame show.
Picture this. You play big-time college football, you get some NIL money. You get drafted in the NFL, and you start making real big money. However, you're 23 years old and you don't have any credit. Here at Mid-Penn Bank, we're helping these athletes establish credit through secured credit cards and other strategies that can help develop their credit now, so as they continue to make money, they can have long-term success financially.
At Revolution X, we know that fortunes are made in times of uncertainty. Are you selling your investment real estate? Are you interested in deferring your tax with a 1031 exchange? At RevX, we're experts in 1031 exchange planning and the use of passive real estate options using DSTs. Not in the midst of an exchange and want to invest in real estate but don't know where to start? Revolution X has institutional grade real estate options for any size investor right now. Set up a consultation at RevXWealth.com. RevX, defer the tax, maximize the gain.
Gentlemen, are you ready for a wardrobe update? Introducing Divine Nine's Custom Menswear, your clothier for truly unique, custom-made threads. With Divine Nine, you can design your own one-of-a-kind suit, jacket, slacks, shirts, golf pants, and shorts, perfectly handcrafted by our skilled artisans who will bring your vision to life. Prepare to stand out from the crowd with Divine Nine's Custom Clothier, official clothier of Seth Joyner. Custom clothing made for you.
Pride, passion, and persistence. These are the values that drive us all at Ron Jaworski Golf. We strive to deliver outstanding conditions as well as playability for golfers of all ages and abilities. Our championship golf courses offer a variety of challenges, from a link-style walk along the river to an escape into the pines and everything in between. My team at Ron Jaworski Golf is committed to delivering memorable experiences every single day. See all we do at ronjaworskigolf.com.
This upcoming segment is brought to you by Recovery Unplugged. And right now we're going to get into our drive of the game. A little bit later on, we're going to talk to the good doctor, Dr. Bruce Grossinger. We got a lot of injuries, unfortunately, to talk about this one, and then hopefully I'll also hear from Jalen Hurts in Minnesota. But let's get to it. That drive of the game, ladies and gentlemen, took place in the third quarter, into the fourth quarter as well. Talking about what went down with that A.J. Brown 26-yard touchdown reception. Eagles got that ball in a 21-19 game, and Jalen Hurts did a little ad-lib with that motion set that you've mentioned a couple of times, setting up A.J. Brown for that strike to make it 28-19 in favor of the Eagles, and it was all birds pretty much after that. That was the moment I felt, Seth, that they retook control of this football game.
Well, absolutely. I mean, that was a big play because, the Vikings had just answered and pulled close. And in a situation like that, you find out where you are as a team, as a quarterback, as a coaching staff, because you have to answer in that situation. If you don't at least get a field goal under those circumstances, now you're in a situation where if the Vikings get the ball back with momentum, now you could be down and having to take your next possession trying to get the lead again. And you don't want to do that. I think that's a sign of good football teams when you're able to answer the call. You're able to come back after you've, given one up and be able to reassert your position again, in your lead and make it a 2-score lead again.
Yeah, we talked about this a lot also. You had a 3rd and 15 conversion. That was their first third down conversion for the Eagles. Then on that drive, this drive of the game, a 3rd and 13 here, and this was one that A.J. Brown was found for 13 yards perfectly for that first down.
When we talk about big play capability, this offense has big play capability across the board. And I don't get caught up in overall stats, 350, 400 yards a game. I want to know how efficient you are when situations are on the line, the 3rd and 15s, the 3rd and 13s. And they answer those tremendously in this game today. And I think that's what they're going to have to do. You have a wide receiver in A.J. Brown, who is a big body with a wide catch radius and incredible hands. Get him the ball. You have Smitty, who is as shifty and as crafty as they come in the National Football League in terms of running routes. Whether you need a deep route, whether you need a comeback route to pick up the first round, whether you need to sit down over the middle. He did all that today for this team. You went deep on him. He sat down over the middle, made the sideline catches when he had to. He did everything. You're going to have to lean on those guys now. Saquon, let's face it. Right now, Saquon, his average is like 50-something yards a game. He's on pace for 920-something yards this season rushing compared to what he did last year, over 2,000 yards. You can't lean on this running game because you can't lean on the offensive line to open up holes. You got to take it up top. You have one of the best tight ends in the game in Dallas Goedert. You got 2 of the best wide receivers in the game. And you got a couple other guys that can chip in every now and then, just like Dotson, and give you a big kick. You're gonna have to lean on that. That's who you are. That's not your identity, but that's who they're forcing you to be each and every week. So go with it. Whatever they give you, take it.
I would love to hear the chatter about the explosive plays just stop, because I don't believe that you have to have explosive plays. Listen, the scenarios where the Eagles, have the most success, in my opinion, is when they're converting third downs and methodically moving the ball down the field. There's nothing wrong with long drives, nothing at all. And sometimes when you're not running the ball effectively, a lot of people talk about the extension of the run game, the little flare passes, to the back out of the backfield, the little sit down by the tight end. the little sit downs by Devontae that they run at about 5 or 6 yards. On first down, go hard play action. If they're going to load the box against you early and come after you to be able to keep Saquon under wraps, then figure out how to use them in a way, figure out how to get the 4 or 5 yards on first down, so at least you're ahead of the sticks. Figure out, how to get Saquon involved via the run game. I'm not talking about having him running this flare route, this 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage, and then zone coverage, you throw it out there to him, and the guy comes up before he can catch the ball, and it's a 3-yard loss. I'm talking about check release him in the middle and let Jalen just dump it to him where he's one-on-one with a guy coming up out of zone, or in man coverage, where he's out in space one-on-one. There's many different ways. Everybody talks about the extension of the run game. Oh, that little short pass, that's just an extension of the run game. Why can't we use Saquon in that capacity until you begin to make the defense soften up and move back? Now you can get back to maybe some of your more traditional run plays.
Yeah, they might have to do that this year. Also, I'll ask you this question a little bit later. Let you think about it. Is this a situation with as bad as the offensive line has been? Is this a situation that the Eagles might have to default back to, almost like they did with Brent Selleck for all those years when they were going through a big transition on the offensive line, and depend more so on their tight end, not as a pass catcher, but as a blocker in a lot of situations? We'll talk about that when we return. Also, we'll get an update on the injuries from the good doctor, Dr. Bruce Grossinger, when we return on the Verizon postgame show.
There's a number on the screen.
There's a number on the screen. There's a number on the screen.
There's a number on the screen.
There's a number on the screen. There's a number on the screen.
There is a number on the screen.
There's a number on the screen.
There's a number on the screen. There's a number on the screen.
Business owners love the path of least resistance. So when it comes to their banking, that's where we want to help them. Whether they're working on their consumer lending, their wealth, their commercial lending, their insurance, our focus is to help plan holistically to ensure financial success both in the business and the owner's personal lives. So reach out to one of our professionals today.
Gentlemen, are you ready for a wardrobe update? Introducing Divine Nine's Custom Menswear, your clothier for truly unique, custom-made threads. With Divine Nine, you can design your own one-of-a-kind suit, jacket, slacks, shirts, golf pants, and shorts, perfectly handcrafted by our skilled artisans who will bring your vision to life. Prepare to stand out from the crowd with Divine Nine's Custom Clothier, official clothier of Seth Joyner. Custom clothing made for you.
Hi, got this old thing and the bill from the store where I got it. Figured you could beat it with a better deal than one of these big boys.
That doesn't work that way.
Well, at Verizon, anyone can bring in their AT&T or T-Mobile bill and they'll give you a better deal.
Oh, Verizon was pricey.
No, better deal, best 5G network. Back to the TV. Does it come higher than 8K? Because I don't like to squint.
Ma'am, take your TV and go.
Bring your AT&T or T-Mobile bill to Verizon for a better deal.
Guess you're not as cool as Verizon.
You don't know that?
This upcoming segment is brought to you by Weber Display and Packaging. Let's go back to Minnesota right now to hear from Jalen Hurts.
Win, and I'm very thankful of that.
You were under center for today than you've been, I think, just at any point this season. Why, and what did that allow you to do?
Well, I kind of spoke towards the beginning of the week when we had the time to catch up, and kind of wanted to establish ourselves in the run game, establish ourselves in that fashion, and ultimately, like Coach Sirianni said, this is what we felt was the best thing to do this week. And so we're happy to walk out of here with a victory, given the formula we had. And, obviously I have some things that we need to clean up and can be better on, but I won't be able to kind of dive into that until I watch the tape.
On the long pass to Devontae was saying it was something that you saw and he was kind of telling you guys at halftime. What was it exactly that you saw, and how did you guys play it?
Yeah, he had a lot of confidence in that look, had a lot of confidence in that, and he was chirping about it, and it ended up getting called. I'd say a great feel by him, great execution from the guys up front, and then great call by KP to get to it.
On that last drive, 39, and as you were saying, there was some thoughts that there would be run opportunities there. That's one we all might have run there. To go to the shot there to AJ, what went on in that moment, and just the beginning of it?
Yeah, a great call, great time in the game. A lot of those third and longs went a whole bunch of different ways, but I knew coming into this game we had to make some plays on third down. And there were a lot of times where they made plays. We just ended up making the plays when we needed to. And so, hell of a catch and way to execute in the heat of the moment by AJ, and even on some of those other third downs too. Catching that one on the sideline. I think there were two on the sideline, if I recall. They were really big in the game, but it was a collective, and I think we still ironing things out. We still are going to be critical of ourselves, but it's good to be critical when we're winning and finding a way to win. And so that's always the number one goal. Great effort by everyone today.
What did you talk about at halftime? You started hot, and then it went cold there for the rest of the half after that first drive. What did you guys talk about at half to maybe get things going?
I had to really watch the film to see, kind of assess that honestly. I think it was just a collaboration on the sideline. And it's, I know, Jeff, you kind of inquired on having a look in your eyes, but it's just a matter of trying to find ways to get it done. It's not a time to hope. It's not a time to want or wish something can happen. It's the time to make it happen, and I think that was a collective thing by everybody. Can't bypass what the defense did either. It was so cool to see Jalix make that play given the opportunity he had last week, and us to talk about that as a team, coach to coach it, detail it out and put him in positions in practice to make that play, and then he makes that play. And so there's no coincidence in that. And so I give a lot of credit to Coach Sirianni in that. Coach Sirianni did a hell of a job preparing us in that way, and give a lot of credit to Jalix and the rest of my teammates of just showing up when the opportunities presented themselves.
Over 300 yards to the wide receivers alone in this game. Is that a point of emphasis during the week, and how important was it to get those guys done?
Can you say that again?
You threw for over 300 passing yards just to the wide receivers alone in this game. It's the second most ever in your career. Was that a point of emphasis this week? And what did it mean to get the receivers going?
Yeah, I didn't really, if I can be honest, I really didn't want to say directly what we were going to do when y'all asked me earlier in the week, because I'm just not that type of competitor to put that out there. But, the thing was to come in and establish the run. That's what we wanted to come in and do, and the game just flowed the way it did. And we were able to be efficient in the past game. KP was very timely, and I think we were able to doctor up some things on the sideline and work through some things, but those guys made big-time plays. Smitty had a hell of a day. Tough. Size ain't nothing to him, the way he plays. So it's good to see. It's good to see, and, I think I said this on the field to Pam, but it ain't about, identity is important, don't get me wrong. That is very important to have an identity and be able to establish an identity, but for a long time now, we've found ways to win games. We found ways to win games in a ton of different ways. And then I think when you say we found ways to lose games, we've lost games kind of in the same way. So being critical of ourselves and knowing that the identity is important, but as this thing goes along, it's about winning.
Jalen, Wednesday, you said a number of plays today where they rushed 3, dropped 8. One of those plays deep ball to AJ. You speak to your patience on those plays, letting things develop down the field while you had all day with the O-line protection.
Yeah, well, they did a hell of a job all day. Brett came in, and he accepted that challenge, and that was, as a quarterback, that made my day. Landon coming in and playing as tough as he always does, and just those guys coming in, Fred coming in and playing the way he did. I think a level of patience comes from just knowing that it's a chess match out there, and sometimes when you're playing a quarterback position, you're playing a different game than everyone else. So it's just kind of letting it go and taking advantage of the opportunity when it presents itself. you know, you always want to be in aggressive mode and be in attack mode. But Coach Brian Flores he's a hell of a defensive coordinator. He's a hell of a coach. He has his guys in positions to make plays, and you know, you see that all throughout the tape. And I think we were just able to execute at a high level today and make some key plays and some key moments. And that's what I think of after this.
On the kill shot to AJ, we've seen you guys. Was there a pre-snap rerouting that you guys communicated based upon the defense?
Yeah, there was some communication there. Yeah.
And you know, can you walk us through the thought process there and how it played out?
Well, we got more games to play, so I really don't want to walk through it.
On Wednesday, you said in tough times you smile and it's a challenge. Was there circumstances this week that led to this type of performance for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, just the feeling of losing. Simple as that. I know there's a clip where, to confirm, I said that we're not losers anymore. Because that's coming off the field, because that's all I could think about. That's all I could think about throughout these last 2 weeks. You know, having opportunities to finish the game, to finish the fourth quarter. I really think this is the first time we've finished the fourth quarter and finished in the second half. And so those things come up, and that's important in this game. And so I think definitely there was some fire there, but within that fire, you have to be the calm and, you know, focus on executing your job. And that's all I was reiterating to the guys out there. It's bigger than just myself and, you know, the way it looks. Oh. So when you win, everybody wants to call you. Sorry about that. But yeah, it was a team effort, defensively, and then offensively with the guys that stepped up and I showed up in those moments.
There were so many big moments in the game.
Yep, I tried to call Jalen Hurts. He didn't answer. I wonder why. Come on, man. Take the call, Jalen. I just want to say, great game, man. That's all.
Trying to get him on the show.
We're trying to get him on. Well, you know, just one-on-one a little bit here. Before we take our next break here, we do want to talk about the injuries, and we'll also react to Jalen Hurts coming up in a second. But Dr. Bruce Grossinger's been standing by waiting patiently. Thank you so much, Doctor. So much to get into. We could do our own post-game show just on injuries alone. First, let's talk about Cam Jurgens, unfortunately. Played, I think, the first quarter, and then that was a wrap. What are you hearing about the Eagles center?
Well, you are correct. He went out after the first quarter. He went out with a knee injury, and I don't have a lot of early feedback, but he's going to get an MRI of his knee tomorrow, and we're hoping that it's just a strain and not a structural tear.
Yeah, you mentioned a couple of times, Gunner, Saquon Barkley banged up throughout this game as well. Concerns there, Doc, for Saquon Barkley and his status going forward?
Well, yes and no. He did go through a 5-stage protocol. He was treated by the team physician, an independent neurologist. He went into the blue tent. He was able to do 5 things, you know, stand on his head and spit dimes. No, but he was able to do some good things, and he was able to come out. So hopefully he'll be back and he won't be into a long-term protocol.
Doc, has it been confirmed that he was being evaluated for a concussion, or was it a shoulder issue? It looked like on the field they were, you know, once they got him to the sideline, that they were kind of massaging his shoulder.
Well, I've heard different reports. I know when you go in for the concussion protocol, they check your neck, and I'm sure they checked his shoulder also, the integrity of his shoulder. But I had heard, and again, it's right after the game, that he did undergo a concussion protocol and passed through. And I guess if there was no concussion, that made it a little bit easier.
Also, it looked like Jalen Carter, that heel injury, it was kind of, I guess, come and go. He said at his locker earlier in this week that he was feeling better. The shoulder was even feeling better thanks to the full bye week, essentially, that he ended up having. What do you know about that heel injury? And it didn't seem to hamper him today too much.
Well, he had a plantar fasciitis inflammation. The best thing is he didn't have to play at MetLife Stadium today, so that was a good thing. He made a great maneuver to really force that first interception. So he looked quick on his feet. I thought Carter, particularly in the first half, looked very spry, and him and Davis, I thought played great all game.
We were also talking earlier about Landon Dickerson, what his status was going to be going into this game. He was also questionable, just like Jalen Carter. He did play, but we know throughout this year, unfortunately, it has been a struggle for him, including surgery during training camp. What do you know about Landon Dickerson, and how much of a concern is his injury going forward?
He's got a high ankle strain, and he's been plagued through it. And the knee, I think, is okay. But Landon, I thought, again, played well, and I think it was a little surprised that he was able to play the game. Likewise, Quinyon Mitchell was, he was out with a hamstring. He was able to play, and so I think it was important to get a lot of guys back today.
Fair enough.
Well, I think there's a couple of other guys, Doc. You want to run through, who else? I think Azeez Ojulari went out, and there was one other.
And Trotter also went out.
Yeah, Trotter.
So Ojulari went out with a hamstring, and Trotter went out very early in the game with an ankle injury. It might have been on a special teams play. So there's going to be a lot of x-rays, a lot of MRIs. So there are a lot of injuries, hopefully none serious. I think Cam Jurgens is the most important one we'll be watching for an MRI of the knee tomorrow.
I think the Adoree Jackson injury is one that needs to be closely watched. I mean, you look at how long he laid on the ground, number one. He finally gets up, and then the cameras catch him on the sideline. You see him moving his hands like as if there was numbness or tingling in his fingers. Now, how do you critique that in terms of moving forward compared to a regular concussion? I don't even know if we can say regular concussion, but when you see a guy start, testing his hand, his fingers like numbness, that could be a cause for concern. He may be out a little bit longer, is I guess what I'm getting to, more so than a general concussion protocol.
D-Gun, you are correct. And so many times we see head and neck injuries, and when there is a stinger, and we had a few of them earlier in the year, there will be numbness in the fingers, which really represents irritation of the nerve roots in the neck. So if it's both a head and neck injury, that could portend a longer recovery.
Last one, Grant Calcaterra, Doc. I think he had an oblique injury. He missed his second game. Particularly, more so in the passing game than the run game. He's a factor. He's the number 2 tight end. Where is he at, as far as his oblique injury and the perspective of probably having him back for next week's game?
I think it's 50-50 at best because we know the obliques are related to the core. And when you play that position of tight end, there's so much rotary movement. In fact, he was injured when he caught a ball and went to the ground. So I think it's something you don't want to mess with. Hopefully he won't require any surgery like core muscle surgery or hernia surgery. But when you have oblique injuries, they can be persistent. So he's probably going to get a lot more therapy, but I haven't heard yet about a definite return to play next week at home against the New York Football Giants.
Dr. Bruce Grossinger, we appreciate you so much for hustling in and breaking down all the injuries for us. Thanks, Doctor.
Thanks so much.
When we come back on the Verizon postgame show, we'll react to Jalen Hurts' comments as well as talk about what needs to happen with this offensive line going forward ahead of a rematch with the Giants. That's when we return on the Verizon postgame show.
Since 1893, Weber Display and Packaging has been Pennsylvania's leading manufacturer of corrugated packaging and displays. We're family-owned with 4 Philadelphia locations, 2 converting facilities, a warehouse, and a fulfillment center. Designed through delivery, we exceed customer needs. Weber Display and Packaging. Our core values drive everything we do. Come join our team.
Pride, passion, and persistence. These are the values that drive us all at Ron Jaworski Golf. We strive to deliver outstanding conditions as well as playability for golfers of all ages and abilities. Our championship golf courses offer a variety of challenges from a link-style walk along the river to an escape into the pines and everything in between. My team at Ron Jaworski Golf is committed to delivering memorable experiences every single day. See all we do at ronjaworskigolf.com.
At Revolution X, we know that fortunes are made in times of uncertainty. Are you selling your investment real estate? Are you interested in deferring your tax with a 1031 exchange? At RevX, we're experts in 1031 exchange planning and the use of passive real estate options using DSTs. Not in the midst of an exchange and want to invest in real estate but don't know where to start? Revolution X has institutional grade real estate options for any size investor right now. Set up a consultation at RevXWealth.com. RevX, defer the tax, maximize the gain.
This upcoming segment is brought to you by Mid-Penn Bank. To re-ask the question that we asked earlier in the show, and it comes to the offensive line struggles, them not being 100% and just basically not playing to the standard that they have set in recent years here in Philadelphia, really for a long time here in Philadelphia. The Eagles used Brent Selleck a lot in his career and sacrificed a lot of receptions, a lot of yards, a lot of touchdowns because they went through a transition on the offensive line. I'm not saying that's quite where the Eagles are at, but they're in a situation where the run game has struggled greatly. Dallas Goedert is known to be a great run blocker. Is this a situation where you'd be willing to sacrifice the offensive production with numbers of Dallas Goedert and use him more as that blocking tight end, Seth?
Well, he was proficient at it last year. I don't see why not. You know, it's not like he's getting, 8 to 10 targets a game anyway. I'm more in favor of it, not only in the run game, but in the passing game too. Like, there are situations where I see, that a team is showing clear pressure on a second and long or third and long situation. I'm all for, especially if you got single high safety, I'm all for you just bringing everybody in. Bring Jahan Dotson in, have him chip and help on the end. Keep Dallas Goedert in, help him chip. Leave Saquon Barkley in, maybe to even check and release and just go into a two-man route and saying, okay, we're just going to max protect everything and run the two-man route. I would much rather see that, if they're persistently going to want to, run the football, then I suggest that they do what they did today. Like we saw Fred Johnson in on quite a few plays. I remember turning to you and saying, is somebody injured or is Fred? That's just in their heavy package when they want to run the football. But at the same time, now you lend yourself the ability. If you bring Fred in, put him at tight end on one side, and keep Dallas in on the other side, now you've got 6 guys in protection, and you can go ahead and release Dallas and send them out, on run plays, on pass plays rather. So there's a lot of different things. There's a lot of different options that the Eagles have, and I know some of them are absolute tells. If you bring Fred in, you're basically telling the defense, we're bringing the extra guy in so we can run the ball. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to run it. Go hard play action pass. Get Dallas blocking down. Get the defense sucked into the run with a good play pass from under center, and then release Dallas, late in the deal with Saquon actually running the play pass to Dallas's side. So if there's any leakage, you got an extra guy to block on that side. Man, I should have been a damn offensive coordinator.
Well,
man.
It's funny you say that. It's funny you say that because, you referenced that to me during the game saying Fred Johnson being what's going on. That was later in the game. But earlier, that play-action pass to Devontae Smith, 2 things happened on that. One, Saquon, I don't know how impactful it was. I don't know if he was the one that really picked up the pressure, but he certainly helped. I know that. I got to watch the All-22 on it later in the week. But Fred Johnson also was in on that play.
You sound like Nick right now, right?
I sound like who?
Nick.
Nick?
You got to watch the All-22.
I said, people tell me I look like his bald brother. His bald drunk brother, actually. But, that was a play that Fred Johnson was in on that game. Play action pass under center. Also interesting, Jalen Hurts talked about that after the game. That was something, Gunner, that he said this week during the team meetings he'd like to do a little bit more.
Oh, so that rumor wasn't true.
How about that?
Jalen doesn't like to be under center. I don't know who the person was that threw that out there. Jalen doesn't like to operate from under center. Maybe it's not Jalen. Maybe some of this offense that we see, because I've heard some things along the line that, Jalen likes to run this and Jalen likes to run that. And I'm old school. It's like, here's the playbook. You go learn it, okay? It's my job as a player to execute what the play is that's called. I don't give a damn what the player likes to run. as a coach, we've game planned all week long. We're the ones that's doing all the extra studying and putting the game plan together. We're calling this play because we feel like this is what works against this offense or this defense. So now it's up to the quarterback and it's up to the players to say, okay, I understand what you're trying to do, coach. I got it, okay? Now we're going to go out and execute it. But when you hear some of these pundits that say, oh, Jalen doesn't like to throw the ball across the middle. Jalen doesn't like to go under center. Jalen only likes to run certain plays. There's certain things that he doesn't like to run that he doesn't think he's proficient at. Well, guess what? Take your ass to a specialist in the offseason and learn how to run all of it so that you can execute the entire play. I can't imagine me telling Buddy Ryan, oh, coach, you need to call something else because, I'm not that good at covering tight ends.
Well, see, there's no Buddy Ryans left in the National Football League. That's the problem. The closest thing you have to a Buddy Ryan is a Vic Fangio type coach. You look at all the coordinators and offensive and defensive coordinators and special team coordinators in the NFL now, Seth, they're all in their early 30s, 40s, early 40s. They're buddy with the players. Some of them, who's the coordinator that got hired who was 29 years old? Didn't the Eagles hire Michael Clay when he was like 29, 30 years old? I mean, think about that. You're the age of some of the players.
Well, Jonathan Gannon wasn't that old.
Jonathan
Gannon was
Gannon,
defense coordinator.
So the old school, sea captain, crusty sea captains, they don't exist anymore in the National Football League.
There's certain things where it's like, okay, the head coach and the OCs and DCs, they are the
captains of the ship.
They are the authority figures.
Yes.
Okay. We've gotten to a place now where players have so much control because of the money that they make that there are certain things that you can't say, you can't do, you can't act, towards the player.
Right.
At the end of the day, you're still an employee.
Yes.
Like if I was working at Burger King or McDonald's, I couldn't go in and say, man, I can't work the grill today. I can't work, man, them flames coming off of them Burger King burgers, that's just a little too much for me today, Doc. I need to work on, cleaning tables.
Milkshakes.
What are you going to tell you?
Yeah.
Now, these guys are getting paid a king's ransom, and there's certain things that they like and certain things that they don't like, and then that the coaches are acquiescing to that instead of telling them, this is what we run. This is what we do. This is what makes us proficient. This is what actually allows us to get to the things that you do like. You understand what I'm saying? And I just don't get that. I don't get that. Like, I went home after my rookie year and identified, and Buddy told me, this is what I need you to work on. This is what I need you to get better on. I went home. I lost 10 pounds, 10 to 12 pounds. I got down from, to the weight that they wanted me to be at. I worked on the things that I knew that I needed to work on to take to make me a complete player, and that's what they asked me to do, okay? As a player, and I'm not even gonna go there. As a player, that's what you did.
Right.
So the thing, this is what I don't understand about today's football, is that the coaches are acquiescing to the players and giving them what they want instead of requiring the players to do what's necessary according to how they've game planned in order for them to be successful.
I want to say thank you real quick to our friends over at White Dog Cafe for providing a delicious lunch for us today. Also, our friends over at the Tinderbox as well. Our man Rob met his father Gary today while we enjoyed a cigar.
Don't forget our giveaways.
And, of course, we want to thank the wonderful people for providing. You had the giveaway today. The wonderful people named Seth Joyner.
Oh, my goodness.
All right, so we're continuing our giveaway. How prophetic it is. There's word out there that BG may be coming back. And guess what? We've got a winner for the signed BG helmet, mini helmet, and football. Carl, you've got my email right there. Make sure you contact me and let me know, what your address is so that we can get you your mini helmet and your football. And I believe our winner from last week, her name eludes me right now.
Angelique?
There's Angelique. Angelique, if you're watching, we haven't heard from you yet. And if we don't hear from you by next week's game, we're just going to throw, is it my jersey? I think it's my jersey. Yeah, we're just going to throw my jersey back into, the till and somebody else will get it.
It goes to the Help D Gun Out Foundation.
Hey, listen, I think,
look, there it is right there. Look, help a brother out.
Look at that mustache.
Yeah, that's it.
Wow.
You know.
And next week, I think next week is Kelly Green week too.
There we go.
So I mean, Angelique, if you don't step up, we're gonna give that Seth Joyner the Kelly Green jersey to somebody else.
Right there.
There we go.
You saw it.
You ain't getting that jersey.
Come on, man. Come on, man. It's a crime. D-Gun can't get no love over here.
By the way, yes, Brandon Graham looks like he's going to be rejoining the Philadelphia Eagles report before the game, heavily considering, just like Seth Joyner, coming out of retirement and playing for the Eagles
There
again.
you go. There you go.
Not
Just
a chance.
like
I
that.
I walked 18 holes yesterday, and I'm still hurting. You think I'm gonna ever play football again? No, sir.
Also, I want to say thank you again to our creative outlet people, our creative outfit people who do a wonderful job producing this fine program. For Bailey Livesey, for Dr. Bruce Grossinger, for Seth Joyner, for Derek Gunn, I'm Mark Farzetta. I'll be back with you guys after our final 1 o'clock game of the season, hopefully a revenge game against the New York Giants. See you guys then.